My favorite character in Marvel Rivals is Namor. His design is so cool, but not only that, he's such an easy character to get in to start using. You need to understand his abilities and then it takes some time to master him, and that is what we've done in this video. We spent 5 hours on Namor alone to try and master this hero. Now what we wanted to do was set ourselves a couple of targets within this 5 hours of playing. First of all, we wanted to make sure we can get at least one 30 kill game within the ranked game modes. We also wanted to do a 1v1 and take on another Namor again within the ranked game modes and try and kill him. And then also we wanted to try and reach silver 3 within ranked within that 5 hours with Namor. So the great thing was that I've already played with Namor within this game already, and I played him within the standard quick play, and I wanted to get a baseline for what his best aim settings were, because I have seen a lot of good aim setting videos, but they're not particularly based around Namor, and on top of that, they're usually for keyboard or mouse players that obviously have way better tracking than anyone on console. So I spent about 30 of my minutes inside the private match perfecting my aim, but not only that, trying to figure out what the best settings were, and I managed to get to the settings that you're going to see on screen just now. You can copy these as you want. I'm using the dual zone S-curve setting, and I have adjusted this to my personal preference. Now I do have to mention, these settings are not for everyone, and I'm going to repeat that. These settings are not for everyone. These are particular to my preference. If you do want a 180 on players, by the way, you need to adjust these two settings, because these are going to allow you to spin as quickly as a keyboard or mouse. The only issue is when you hit your max dead zone on your controller, you will be getting weird aim. So let's skip to some ranked matches right now, and getting to level 10 takes forever. I do want to mention that. So we're getting into some games now, and I'm realizing that the level of players that are playing ranked is definitely much better than hitting quick play, and people know what they're actually doing with their characters now at this point, because we're a couple of weeks in to the game as well. So it's not like I'm absolutely horrible Namor to begin with, but the levels are different. Not only that, people know what team composition is within rank. On top of that, obviously people know what the meta characters are, and Namor is not one of them. So that is something you need to keep in mind when I was playing this, but it didn't make it any less difficult. So achieving my 3 targets is going to be quite difficult, and I realized that early on, as I was pretty much hitting even on my kills and deaths pretty much most games. So I was pretty much down an hour and a half now at this point, and as much as I know how to use Namor pretty well, I felt like there was something missing and that I needed to know how to use this character a little bit better. So I decided to start looking into VODs for some of the top 500 players to see who's actually using Namor and how they're using this character different to me. And it was so difficult to find this, by the way. Within the top 20 players, there was only one player I could find that actually was using Namor, and that was only as a secondary character. So it's actually took me a while to find someone that is in the top 500 that's playing Namor, that's kind of in the top 50 players. And this guy doesn't even main Namor, but he has got a good amount of time with him anyway. So it's 8 hours of Namor, and the reason why I picked him is because his main character Hela is actually blocked within this game. We're going to watch this and try and get an idea of what he's actually doing here. Obviously this guy is a pretty decent player in its entirety, and I have watched a bit of this clip, and you can kind of tell he's a keyboard and mouse player. So playing Namor as a controller player is quite difficult, because fine-tuning those settings is something that is extremely hard to do, man. It's really tough. Like, I've got the aim settings good, but then I do also want to be able to have like 180 on players as well, but to get that at the same time and then not mess with your aim is very difficult. Then you need to up your sense instead, and then that throws off your aim as well. So even once you've got the settings down, it's just a lot to play around with. When you watch this gameplay here and with keyboard and mouse, it's just something that's a lot better when it comes to tracking players. This guy's tracking is absolutely insane, and his aim is just ridiculously good. And I think that's the difference between a good Namor and an insanely good Namor, is if you make sure you've got your aim perfect. So what he's doing here is getting high ground, kind of staying within that 20 to 30 meter range when it comes to output and damage. That's kind of where you want to be, so he's actually doing pretty well when it comes to that. Obviously this guy's really good, to be fair, so there's not really much advice I can give him on how to play the game, but he is kind of playing roughly where I would personally play. This guy is pretty solid. Here is where his tracking is pretty solid, and obviously he's used this to protect himself Obviously his healer was nowhere to be seen to help him out either. This is what you do want to do with Namor though. So as you can see, he's just out putting a ton of damage down range, using the wall as cover, just keep firing shots. And because all the enemies are clustered together here, and obviously uses his ultimate perfectly here, because all the enemies are clustered together, you're going to get tons of damage, and Namor's going to output tons of damage every game. Just because of the way his ability works and because it's unlimited. I do think he needs some kind of buff when it comes to either movement or having an extra squid or something like that to make him like a really good character, because right now he's just getting overshadowed by a lot of other DPS. And as you can see, they're working well as a team here, protecting each other with the shields and stuff. He's just again firing damage down range and again trying to stay relatively distant to the enemies because his aim tracking is really good, so he's going to be landing a lot of shots. And you're going to be missing a lot of shots with Namor as well, by the way. Even if you're on keyboard and mouse and you're as good as this guy, you will be missing a ton of shots with Namor anyway. This guy's playing the character almost perfectly. The only thing I would say is that you could use the squids as cover. So instead of just using them to do damage, which obviously he's doing very well, but you can also use them as cover as well, and kind of stick them in front of him. But that is only an additional small tip, and obviously this is not his main character anyway, so I don't expect him to kind of do that sort of stuff. But this guy's aim tracking is absolutely insane, by the way. After watching one of the best players in the game and getting some newfound motivation, I've learned a couple of tips when it comes to Namor. First of all, you need to perfect your aim. That is one thing you definitely need to do with this guy. Then second to that, you need to know when to use all of the abilities, which is obviously a given when it comes to any of the characters in this game. But particularly the squids are probably the most important one to use because they do have aimbot essentially, and they're going to give you some easy kills. And then after that, it's just making yourself a hard target to hit. So now we know all this information, we're going to get back into some games, and we found a Namor to kill. So we finally found the opportunity to get our first challenge done because we managed to find another Namor within this game, and he was on the opposite team, of course. And not only did we kill him once, but we actually killed him twice, so I take this as a challenge completed. With the first challenge complete, which was just a bit of fun, the next challenge is actually more important because it's going to prove Namor's viability within ranked game modes. And the first thing I want to mention is that obviously not a lot of people are actually picking Namor as a hero because he's not a meta character, but I do like Namor and he's my personal favorite character, so I want to make sure that he is a viable choice within ranked. So like I said, we need that 30 plus elim game. So not only did we get one 30 plus elim game with Namor within ranked, we actually got two 30 plus elim games, and I'll be showing you those at the moment. However, I do want to mention something about Namor. The reason why I set this at 30 and not 40, because that would have been extremely impressive, is because I know the limits with this character, and he's nowhere near as good as some other DPS, for example, like Moon Knight or Star-Lord or someone like that, for example. He doesn't have that same kind of output. With just your sheer skill alone and 5 hours of practice, you can do really well with this character, however. The last and final challenge was to get to Silver 3 within the 5 hours of playtime, and unfortunately, I was not able to complete this challenge. I will continue to play with Namor, however, because I have proven within this video that you can do extremely well within ranked with Namor, and you can easily drop 30 plus kill games back to back. And that is actually all you need to know with this character because he is a solid choice. Now, one thing I do want to say though is I do still think he needs a slight buff to make him even more viable within the ranked setting, because everyone's going to go for the meta characters, as you've seen when it comes to the top 500 players. He's only like a secondary backup, which is not what I want him to be. I want him to be a primary choice for a lot of players. So we need to see some buffs to this character going into the future. So to round this video off, within 5 hours of playtime, you can master all of Namor's abilities. Not only that, you can actually use these abilities within ranked and perform extremely well with them, even though he's not a meta choice character. And if this video proves anything at all, if you take away anything at all from this video, then the skill that you have and the time you put into the game matters more than any hero that you choose.